Okay, so you know how sometimes the smallest things can cause the biggest arguments in a
Oh,
relationship?
yeah, absolutely. Like leaving the dishes in the sink or not putting the toilet seat down.
Exactly. And today we are diving deep into a technique that's actually helping couples tackle those little things.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it all starts with folding towel.
Folding towel.
Yeah,
It does
that's
count.
kind of funny, right?
It does.
But there's this peer-reviewed article we found called Folding Towels, Choosing the Proper Approach to Achieve the Chosen Goal as a Couple. And it's all about using towels as a metaphor to help couples work better together.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, think about it. Every couple has those shared goals they are working towards.
Like, saving for a house.
Yeah, or planning a vacation, or even just like keeping the apartment clean,
Yeah, no, totally.
And just like there's no one right way to fold a towel. There's no one size fits all approach to achieving those goals.
So true. Some people are super meticulous about their folding technique, while others are just like, just get it in the drawer.
Uh-huh, exactly. And those differences can sometimes lead to some tension,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially if you're the one who's always stuck refolding your partner's towels, so to speak.
So how does this whole towel analogy actually help couples in a practical way?
Well, the article outlines this five-step process, and the first step is all about identifying those towels.
So basically figuring out what those shared goals actually are, because sometimes we think we're on the same page, but maybe we have totally different ideas about what that dream vacation looks like or how to save for retirement.
It's like one person is picturing a relaxing beach getaway, and the other is thinking about backpacking through Europe.
Totally different towels, right?
Exactly. And trying to cram them both into the same linen closet is just going to cause problems.
Okay, so step one is making sure you're both holding the same towel, not two completely different ones. What's next?
Step two is all about acknowledging that there are different folding styles and that neither one is better than the other.
Because just because someone folds their towels differently than you doesn't mean they're trying to annoy you or anything.
Right. It's just a different approach. And the key is to recognize and respect those differences.
I love that. It takes the pressure off, right? You don't have to try and force your partner to fold towels your way.
Exactly. And sometimes those different styles can actually complement each other really well.
Like maybe your partner's more of a get it done folder, which can be super helpful when you're facing a tight deadline. And you might be the one who is really good at planning and organizing.
Exactly. You each bring your own strengths to the table.
Okay, so we've got identifying the towels and acknowledging different folding styles. What's step three?
Step three is where we assess the space we're working with.
You mean like the size of the linen closet?
Well, yeah, in a way, it's about understanding each person's limitations and resources.
So like if someone's already super busy with work and family stuff, their metaphorical closet might be pretty full.
Exactly. And trying to cram in a bunch of new towels, like starting a new hobby or taking on a big project, might not be the best idea.
That makes sense. It's about being realistic about what you can handle.
And this is where communication is so important, It's about having those honest conversations with your partner about how much space you each have in your closet at any given time.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you can say, hey, my closet's pretty packed right now. Can we
Yeah.
maybe hold off on adding any new towels for a bit?
Exactly. It's about being upfront and setting those boundaries.
That's so important because it prevents resentment from building up. If you're constantly feeling like you're carrying more than your fair share, you can end up feeling frustrated.
Exactly. So by being open about our limitations, we can avoid those unnecessary conflicts.
Okay, so we've covered identifying the towels, acknowledging different folding styles, and assessing the space. What's next?
Step four is where things get really interesting. This is where we start experimenting and adapting.
Okay, so we're actually folding some towels now, metaphorically speaking, of course.
Exactly. But the key here is that it's not about finding the perfect method right away. It's more about trying different approaches, seeing what works, what doesn't, and being open to adjusting along the way.
So maybe you try folding the towels your partner's way for a week, just to see how it feels.
That's a great idea. Or maybe you come up with a hybrid approach that combines elements of both your styles.
I like that. A little bit of you, a little bit of me.
And the most important thing is to keep communicating throughout the process.
So check in with each other regularly, share what's working, what's not, and be open to feedback.
Exactly. It's all about finding that rhythm that works for both of you, even if it takes a bit of trial and error.
It sounds kind of like a dance, right? You're learning to move together, anticipate each other's steps, and find that flow.
I love that analogy because it's so true. Relationships are all about finding that flow.
Okay, so we've covered the first four steps, identifying the towels, acknowledging different styles, assessing the space, and experimenting. What's the final step in this towel folding journey?
Step 5 is all about reflection and adjustment, taking a step back and seeing how things are going.
So basically having those regular check-ins to see if you need to tweak your approach.
Exactly. And remember, relationships are an ongoing process, just like folding towels. There's always room for improvement.
I like that. It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing to learn and grow together.
Precisely. And when you embrace that mindset, those everyday tasks like folding towels become less about chores and more about opportunities to connect with your partner and build a stronger, more fulfilling relationship.
This has been so insightful. We've unpacked the first 5 steps of this folding towels technique and learned how this simple analogy can actually be a really powerful tool for improving communication, fostering collaboration, and navigating those everyday challenges that can sometimes trip us up in relationships.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore with this concept.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve into some specific examples of how this analogy can play out in real-life situations, from navigating conflict to balancing responsibilities and everything in between.
It's going to be fascinating.
See you there.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the fascinating world of folding towels and what it can teach us about relationships.
So we've got those 5 basic steps down, using the towel folding metaphor to approach those shared goals. But now I'm wondering how this actually works in those real-life tricky situations. Because sometimes those metaphorical towels, they feel more like a whole pile of tangled up sheets.
Oh, absolutely. And that's actually where the true power of this technique comes in. It's not just a cute little analogy. It's like a framework for understanding those small differences, in how we approach things and how they can turn into those big relationship roadblocks if we aren't careful.
Okay, so let's say a couple is trying to fold that towel of planning a vacation. One person is super spontaneous, loves to book things last minute. The other person needs a detailed itinerary like months in advance. How do they even start to find some middle ground?
Well, it goes back to those first steps we discussed. The first thing is to acknowledge both approaches have their positives. The spontaneous traveler brings excitement and can adapt easily, while the planner makes sure things run smoothly. You don't miss those important sites.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not about right or wrong. It's about seeing the value in how each person approaches things.
Exactly. And then the couple can start thinking about how to maybe blend their strengths. Like maybe they agree on a destination and a budget, but they leave room for some of those spontaneous side trips. Or they take turns planning different parts of the trip, letting each person shine where they are strongest.
I can see how doing that would help. That feeling of resentment wouldn't build up. One person isn't calling all the shots. They find a system that works for both of them.
That's it, exactly. This idea can be used for all sorts of towels that come up in a relationship, from money stuff to how you spend your weekends.
Speaking of finances, that can be a big one for couples, a source of tension. What if one person is a saver, tracks every penny, and the other is more of a spender, lives in the moment? Can this folding towels approach help them get on the same page?
It starts with getting those money scripts, those beliefs about money, the habits we develop around money. Maybe the saver grew up seeing tough times, money was tight, and the spender maybe really values experiences, that instant gratification. Once they see those underlying reasons, they can talk about money with more understanding.
Instead of judging each other, they try to get the why behind those money habits. Seems so much better than just fighting about who's right.
You got it. Then they can create a system that works for them both. Maybe they agree on a certain amount of fun money every month. Each person can spend it how they want, no judgment, and they still work toward those shared savings goals.
I love that. It takes the shame out of the conversation. It's about solving things together.
Exactly. That's where that idea of closet size comes back. Remember, just like a closet can get full, we can get emotionally and mentally full, especially when life is stressful.
Right, so if one person is super stressed at work, their closet is overflowing, there's less room to handle all those other towels, like the chores, decisions about the kids, even just being there emotionally.
Exactly. It's so important during those times to talk about what you can handle. Maybe adjust expectations or split tasks differently because of that smaller closet space.
So you're saying it's not about one person doing more, it's about being honest about what you can handle at that moment.
Exactly. And that brings up another super important point, communication. How to keep those towel folding sessions from becoming arguments.
Yeah, because even when we understand the whole different folding styles thing, those differences can still lead to fights if we aren't careful.
For sure. That's why good communication is so important. It's not just talking, it's about really listening to your partner, getting their point of view, even when you don't agree.
That's tough sometimes. To not jump in, get defensive, before you really understand where the other person is coming from.
That's so true. That's where using I statements can be helpful. Instead of saying you always leave your clothes on the floor, try saying, I feel stressed when the bedroom is messy. It would help me relax if we could find a way to keep it tidier.
Right, so instead of blaming, you're saying how you feel, what you need.
You got it. And it lets your partner do the same. Maybe they are struggling to keep up with everything and need a little extra help.
Instead of a power struggle, it becomes about understanding and working together.
You got it. That's the heart of the folding towels analogy. It's about having those conversations with kindness, compassion, and finding solutions that work for both partners.
I'm already feeling like I can handle those metaphorical towels better. What else can this analogy teach us about relationships?
It's really helpful for managing conflict. Like a linen closet needs to be organized. Well, to handle disagreements, you need to talk in a structured way, respect each other's boundaries.
I'm not sure I get it. What's the
Okay.
connection between a linen closet and arguing with your partner?
Think about it. If you're trying to cram a big beach towel into a full closet, you can't just shove it in there, right? You got to move things around, make some space, and be careful not to mess up how the closet is organized.
So you're saying when we're in the middle of an argument, it's like trying to force that towel into a packed closet. We aren't thinking about the other person or how we're messing things up for the relationship.
Exactly. We don't want to damage the other towels, and we don't want to damage the relationship. It's about respect.
Wow, that's a powerful image. Makes me want to pause and take a breath before I start blaming my partner for everything.
Exactly. And that's what this analogy can do. It helps you see things differently. You remember that even when you're fighting, you're a team. You need to find solutions together. Keep the linen closet organized.
So no more throwing metaphorical towels at each other. Be more thoughtful about those disagreements.
That's right. Find a way to fold them together. Maybe take turns folding, listen to each other, find a compromise.
I'm starting to see how folding towels is so much more than just a metaphor. It's a way to see the complexity of relationships.
That's it. And we've only begun to explore it. In the last part, we'll dive into even more practical tips and strategies to use this in your everyday life.
I can't wait. See you for part 3. We're back and ready to finish our deep dive into the folding towels analogy. It's been amazing to see how this simple idea can teach us so much about relationships.
It really is fascinating, isn't it?
But so far, we've focused on everyday things, like planning trips, dealing with money arguments. But what about the big stuff in life, those things that can really shake things up?
That's a great point. And that's where resilience comes in. A linen closet that's organized well, it can handle getting bumped around a bit. A strong relationship can get through those tough times without falling apart.
Okay, I see that. But when you're in the middle of a crisis, it can feel like that whole closet just exploded. How do you even start putting things back together?
Well, it starts with self-care. Remember how we talked about closet size? When you are stressed, that closet can get way smaller. We get impatient, we have less energy, and it's harder to handle those metaphorical towels.
So it's like they say on airplanes, put your own oxygen mask on first, then help others.
Exactly. And self-care is different for everyone. Maybe it's going for a walk, listening to music, or just saying no to extra things when your closet is full.
It's about taking a break, giving yourself space to think clearly and handle those challenges.
That's it. And there's another big part of resilience. Forgiveness. When those metaphorical towels are flying around, we can say things we don't mean, make mistakes.
It's like trying to fold a fitted sheet. Sometimes you just want to give up and shove it in the drawer.
Perfect analogy. In those moments, remember, everyone makes mistakes, especially when things are tough. If we hold on to anger and keep thinking about those arguments, it just makes things worse.
So how do we let go of that anger and move on?
First, recognize that you and your partner are both hurt. Then choose to forgive, not because what happened was okay, but because holding on to anger will hurt you and the relationship.
So powerful. It's like carefully folding those towels, even though they are wrinkled from the storm.
Exactly. Forgiving can be so healing for you and the relationship. It makes room for empathy, compassion, and hope that you can get through it together.
Okay, so I've got self-care and forgiveness. What else can help us build resilience in our linen closet?
Laughter. It might seem impossible to find something funny when things are tough, but even a little chuckle can help. It reminds you that you're not alone.
I love that because sometimes we're so busy trying to fix things or be right that we forget to just have fun together.
That's so true. Those times when you laugh together, those silly jokes or remembering good times, they're like fabric softener for the relationship.
So instead of just folding those towels together, put on some music or talk about a fun memory,
Hmm.
makes the task more enjoyable and reminds you why you're doing it together.
Exactly. And that brings up another good point. Remembering your why. Why are you folding towels with this person in the first place? What makes this relationship worth it?
Sometimes when we're frustrated, it's easy to forget why we chose to share that linen closet with someone.
Thinking about those good things, remembering why you're together, that can give you strength to keep going even when it's hard.
This has been such a great conversation. Who knew folding towels could teach us so much about talking, working together, resilience, and being there for each other, even when things are messy?
It all goes back to the basics. Being clear, respecting differences, knowing your limits, and being a team.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. The next time you and your partner face a challenge, big or small, remember those metaphorical towels.
Ask yourselves, how can we fold these together so that we both feel good and it brings us closer? How can this make our relationship stronger and happier?
Because in the end, it's not about perfectly folded towels or a perfect linen closet. It's about showing up for each other, accepting the messiness, and folding those towels together one step at a time.
That's it, exactly. And until next time, remember, even the messiest towels can be folded with a little patience, talking things out,